Yeah, yeah. Ball so hard, you better believe me, it's scary. It's basketball at the bar with Calvin and Barry. So put a tip in the jar, cause these dudes can really fill it up. Whether it's buckets you need or just a beer in a cup. We're here for fresh conversations, got some delicious libations. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. My boys got you covered like you being guarded by payers. From the glove to the claw and everyone else in between. Calvin and Barry got everything that you need. For sure. So sit back, relax, because we're starting the show. It's basketball at the bar. Grab your drinks and let's go. Yeah. Grab a drink and let's go. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification. Calvin and Barry. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification. Let's get it.
What's up, ballers? Welcome back to the bar. It is Wednesday night, so it's official. We're back doing Wednesday night parties here on Basketball at the Bar. Welcome in, everybody. We are officially live. My name is Barry, and on the right side of your screen there is Calvin. If you love basketball, if you love bars, make sure you smash up that like button, because we do this for fun. We do this for likes. We do this for you guys. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. We put out fresh clips almost daily, and then we do these lives once a week, Wednesday night parties. Come join us. Grab your beer. Let's go. So what is up, Calvin? Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, Barry. Welcome in, everyone. Let's get to it.
I'm rocking a new set of headphones today. I did leave my AirPods on the golf course. Unfortunately, Asha is looking for them, so hopefully she gets them back here. But I'm rocking the camo one, so if you cannot see me, it's just camouflage, so don't worry about it. Squint, do whatever you need to do. I'm still here. But we have a fun show today. We are going to talk a ton about the LA Lakers. We're going to talk about LeBron signing a 2-year extension. I got the LeBron shirt on today. We're going to talk about the Lakers retiring Paul Gasol's jersey. We're going to talk about some potential Kyrie Irving to the Lakers rumors that keep swirling. Kevin Durant, what the hell is going on with him? We're going to talk about status updates on the Tyler Herro extension, some more Donovan Mitchell trade rumors. And then, Calvin, the biggest news of today is the schedule is officially released. So we will go over the schedule, talk about some key dates, some games that we're looking forward to, and then there's a lot of Kings fans channel, so we're going to go dive in a little bit into the Sacramento Kings schedule. We'll go over the entire thing tomorrow on Royal Rebounds tomorrow night, so make sure you guys join us for that. Shout out to Brian. Thank you, Brian, for joining us, and welcome into the chat. So, Calvin, let's go ahead and dive in here. The first official news of the day: LeBron officially signs a 2-year contract extension with the LA Lakers. This is 2 years, $97.1 million. He will be the highest paid player on the Lakers next season. And now he is officially the highest paid NBA player of all time, earning $532 million in guaranteed money throughout his NBA career, or he will have after this extension is over. So, Calvin, a lot to unpack here. We didn't think he was going to sign an extension, right? We thought that maybe LeBron was going to want to have the leverage. We talked about the free agents that are available next offseason. And maybe he'd be better off to wait a little bit, give the Lakers some salary flexibility. But in my opinion, it sounds like he's tired of hearing rumors about him returning to Cleveland or going to another team. So he just went ahead and signed on the dotted line. What are your thoughts here?
Well, yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I've been on record on this channel saying I did not think there was any chance in hell that he signed this extension, and I was wrong. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me personally. I'm, of course, not LeBron James, so he ultimately is the guy that's going to make this call or not. But I'm surprised. I really am. And you mentioned all the records, most total earnings, over the course of a career. He also now surpasses Kevin Durant for the most guaranteed money signed on a contract. It's a little over $53 million. And depending on what happens with the salary cap going forward, there's a lot of expectations that the salary cap will increase substantially by next year. If that happens, this contract becomes even more lucrative for LeBron. I think it could go up to like $111 million total with that increase. So he is definitely not losing by signing this deal. However, I still don't think it makes a ton of sense from a basketball standpoint for me. The Lakers, if they miss the playoffs this year, that'll be 3 out of the 5 seasons that LeBron's been there where they missed the playoffs. That's not what LeBron James is accustomed to in his career. And now that they've really ripped apart this roster, aside from Anthony Davis and maybe Russell Westbrook or Kyrie Irving, there's not a lot of security here from a LeBron standpoint to think that, okay, this is a team that I know we're going to compete year after year. So I felt like it would have, he could get this contract with probably any team that has the money to pay him, right? So I thought it would have benefited him a lot more to go into next offseason as an unrestricted free agent. But there's got to be other motivating factors here for him. Living in LA, being close to his kids, obviously the money is on the table here and it is big. So there's definitely a lot of reasons out there that made him want to stay ultimately.
Yeah. I think the bottom line is, LeBron loves LA. His kids go to school in the LA area. Doesn't want to be bouncing around teams. And honestly, you look up in the rafters of the LA, arena there, and you got names like Will Chamberlain, Kobe Bryant, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like, LeBron wants to be known around those. He wants to be part of that. I think the Lakers, out of any team, maybe you could throw the Celtics in there as well, but it's more of like a fraternity, right? It's like a group of guys that will always have each other's back. Maybe they argue and have things, media and all that stuff, but this is a group of people that consider themselves, even Shaq, right, who went on to play on multiple teams afterwards and says, I will always be a Laker. I'm a Laker. I bleed blue and or purple and gold. I love the Lakers. So LeBron is officially one of those guys. And I've been, I pay attention to some of these Facebook forums where they talk about basketball. A lot of it's really annoying because it's always like, who's better, Kobe, Jordan, LeBron, all that stuff. But I have been a ton of posts today. Lakers fans don't seem to be very happy, or maybe it's Kobe fans that are not very happy that LeBron is remaining here in LA. It's kind of a weird dynamic there. Any other fan base would be ecstatic that their best player, and probably the best player or one of the best players in the NBA, just decided he was going to remain with your franchise for a couple more years. Interestingly enough, Calvin, we just talked about over the past couple weeks the drama with Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. I never heard about whether there is no trade clause in this contract. Diving in here, trying to look at it, and I don't see anything about a no trade clause, which is kind of strange, right?
Maybe. I don't know. That might seem like you're could be reading too much into it, or maybe the final details of the contract haven't, you just signed the extension. A lot of times you don't hear what the exact details are of it until days, weeks later. So maybe that comes up at some point here. But at this point in LeBron's career, I don't think he has to really worry about that much. Like, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for the Lakers to turn around and trade him to Orlando, after next season. So I think he probably is past the days of having to worry about a no trade clause anyway.
Yeah, for me, and I get that too, right? Like, I feel like LeBron has maybe a handshake deal or a verbal agreement with Jeannie Buss, of how this franchise is moving forward, and he's going to be a part of it. It's just kind of interesting because it seems like a no trade clause is something that's very, very easy to kind of just throw right in there. Maybe it would make LeBron happy. Maybe they weren't willing to do that. I'm not really quite sure, but this does scream to me that the Lakers are ready to make another move to help improve their roster this season. Is it Kyrie Irving? I'm not quite sure. That seems to be the favorite right now. But I could easily see a situation where LeBron's like, come on, we need Kyrie. Give up the extra 2 first-round picks. Let's go and get Kyrie. I want to be back in the finals this season. And the Lakers could just say to him, hey, or Rob Pelinka could be like, hey, LeBron, I'm only doing that if you re-sign with us. So maybe this is a precursor to a Kyrie Irving trade. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But great news for LeBron. Great news for Lakers and Lakers fans, at least for most of them anyway. But LeBron will continue to remain in LA for the next 3 seasons or so. We will see exactly what happens there. All right. In other news, the Lakers will officially retire number 16. That is Paul Gasol. Interesting, Calvin, because if you'd been reading through the Facebook basketball groups over the past few days, Paul Gasol was a role player that Kobe Bryant dragged everywhere with him and had no impact on them winning basketball games. It was all Kobe Bryant. And it seems like the Lakers are retiring a role player's number in number 16, Pau Gasol. Obviously, I don't think he's a role player, but interesting news there for them. I just want to go over this list now of Lakers jersey numbers that are retired. There's officially 13 jerseys that are retired with the LA Lakers. One of those is number 6, Bill Russell. He never did play with the Lakers, but he is retired league-wide. 2 of those belong to the late, great Kobe Bryant. And then I'm not even going to throw the 69 situation in there, so I guess officially 14. But, we can look through this list here real quick. You got Bill Russell. And a lot of these names on this list are the ones that I referred to earlier, right? That LeBron's looking up in the rafters, seeing all these numbers. He wants his number retired up there as well. So you got Bill Russell here, number 6. Kobe Bryant, number 8. Wilt Chamberlain, number 13. Pau Gasol. He's the man of the hour, number 16. You got Elgin Baylor on this list. Kobe Bryant obviously wore number 24 after the rebranding of his image after Shaq left and all that drama surrounding the knee surgery and all that stuff. You got Gail Goodrich on here. I think I bought some of his tires before. We got number 32, Magic Johnson. Many people refer to as the greatest Laker of all time. You got Kareem, which in my mind is the greatest Laker of all time. He is on the top of my list, or close to the top of all-time greats. You got Shaq on here, James Worthy, Jerry West, Jamal Wilkes, and then Chick Hearn, a play-by-play announcer. Obviously doesn't have a jersey. Also retired by the Lakers. Calvin, first thoughts looking at this list here. It's a hell of a list, man.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's one of the greatest lists you can probably put together just in terms of players, period. My question is, should Memphis now retire Pau Gasol's number? I know he didn't win any championships there, but he was rookie of the year there. He made all-star teams. He made the Grizzlies relevant, early on in their days in Memphis. It's kind of just the same narrative we were talking about when they announced that Bill Russell's jersey would be retired league-wide. Where does this end? And then also, Barry, I want to know from you, is Pau Gasol a Hall of Famer?
I think he's definitely a Hall of Fame. But yeah, it's I don't know why Memphis would consider doing that or not. I don't know. It's kind of weird. As a franchise that has an up and coming great player that never actually wins or does anything with your team, moving on to another team and having a lot of success has got to be pretty rough to watch. So it'll be interesting to see what exactly happens there. But I'm definitely gonna retire Pau Gasol. If I'm the Lakers, if I'm the Grizzlies, and I think he does belong in the Hall of Fame. Do you think so?
It's tough. I'm not sure. I mean, if you look at his career numbers here, 2-time NBA champ, 6-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA. He was Rookie of the Year in 2001, 2002. Don't get me wrong. He had a great career, but his career numbers, 17 points a game, 9 rebounds, 1.6 blocks. Those are good numbers, definitely. But I'm just not so sure. Like, I see Mike in here saying that everybody gets into the Hall of Fame in the NBA, and he makes a good point. And I think that Pau probably will get into the Hall of Fame. I think the fact that he won titles for the Lakers helps him. And
Kobe's gone.
Definitely. If he had maybe been an aging star that latched himself onto one of those other teams that won a championship, I don't know if he would get the same sort of recognition, which sounds bad to say, but I'm not so sure that I would put him as a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he's right on the fringe for me, but over time, I don't see why he wouldn't be considered a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I agree. I think Key Kings has a great point here. The Spain career, you throw that in there as well, which it's not NBA, but
that's true.
It is kind of recognized. Something I want to throw out here real quick. I was just reading an article today. Reggie Miller. He's the only player in the top 75 that has never won an MVP award. A Defensive Player of the Year award, was never elected to an All-NBA first, second team, an All-Defensive team, Rookie of the Year, like none of these things. Doesn't have a championship, yet he's in the NBA All-75 team. Kind of weird, right? Do you think he belongs there? And sorry, it's a crazy tangent, I know.
A little crazy, but it's worth talking about. I mean, if you're going to leave guys like Kyrie Irving and Klay Thompson off this list but put Reggie Miller in there, both of those guys are better basketball players than Reggie Miller. Reggie still is riding the end, in my opinion, the end of the fact that he hit more threes than anybody else before three-pointers were a really, really big deal in basketball. If he would have played now, I don't know if he would have gotten the same types of numbers, but I think he would have been more appreciated, which kind of sounds weird to say because they put him on the All-NBA 75 list despite not having any of those extra accolades. Long story short, I think that there are other players that probably deserve to be on that list above him. But again, he was part of the 50th anniversary team, so that was before some of these guys like Kyrie and Klay Thompson had even played a game in the NBA, and so maybe that helped him carry over to the 75 team. I personally have always felt that Reggie Miller was a little overrated, but maybe a little bit ahead of his time, because he, in an age where three-point shots and movement without the basketball, being able to get open, without having the ball in your hands, he kind of created that style of play, so to speak. So that's a tough one for me.
Hey, no knock on Reggie Miller here. This is not a knock on Reggie Miller, the basketball player, but I think Reggie Miller, the analyst, is better than Reggie Miller, the basketball. I'm going to throw that out there.
I would agree with that.
Alfie Man, what is up? And yes, I am wearing, can you see these? I know they're camouflage. I'm not sure if you can see these, but I am wearing these camouflage headphones today because I was golfing on the golf course and fortunately left my AirPods in the golf cart, but Asha said she was able to recover them, so that is good news.
Oh, that's good.
They are officially recovered.
Want to add one good funny story here about Reggie Miller. He wasn't even the best basketball player in his own home. There's a great story that he tells personally about when he was in like high school, junior year or something like that, sophomore year. He had a great game. He hit like the game-winning shot or something in one of his varsity games, and his parents picked him up afterwards, or he's driving home afterwards with them, and he's telling them about how great his game was and all this stuff. His sister Cheryl on that same day scored like 92 points or something in a game. And so he got overshadowed in the biggest moment of his life by his older sister, who was an incredible basketball player in her own right.
Yeah, and Reggie probably took that to heart too, because he is not a kind of person that forgets anything, right? Anything at all.
Yes.
Key Kings has got a good question here. Curious why the Lakers count the Minneapolis titles but won't retire George McCann's jersey.
George Mikan.
George Mikan. Any thoughts on that?
Excellent question. I have absolutely no answer for that. I mean, Chris Mikan now I'm messing up his name. George Mikan, is considered the godfather of post players. Like he was the best interior player early in the earliest days of the NBA. So, and it's a very good point. If you're going to count that championship, I don't see why you can't add yet another name to the rafters or number to the rafters. The Lakers put them up like candy anyway. So.
Yeah, and just to clarify here, he retired 32 years before we were born, so it's okay to mispronounce a name here and there, I guess. But yeah, interesting, right? You'd think they just throw everybody's jersey up there at this point, but yeah, it kind of gets into the tricky debate back on the jersey retirements. It gets kind of into this like tricky debate, right? Where you're like, okay, well, what about Dwight Howard? Do you retire Dwight Howard's number? Because Dwight Howard had an incredible career. Maybe not with the Lakers, even though his second stint with the Lakers, he did bring a championship to the city. What about guys like Steve Nash that played there the very last year of his career and obviously didn't do anything? They got swept in the first round of the playoffs. Kobe was injured, all that. But a lot of really, really great players. And hell, throw Robert Horry up there too, right? He helped put up a couple of those banners too. So.
Oh man.
All right, let's go ahead and move on here. Let's jump into the Kyrie Irving situation. Calvin, do you have any updates, any new thoughts on Kyrie Irving? The only thing I really have to talk about is I think that this LeBron extension means that they are trading for Kyrie, and it's going to happen very, very soon. What do you think?
Yeah, well, we've already heard the reports that the Lakers are now willing to include their 2 first-round picks in a deal for Kyrie. I think that's more meaningful than the LeBron extension, even though they're both, I would say, meaningful, both in regards to the Lakers themselves as a franchise and this potential trade. I don't have any new updates other than they're going to do their best to work this deal out. And God help Rob Pelinka and Darvin Ham, because they're going to have their hands full with the absolute mess that is Kyrie Irving.
Oh, man, it's been a pretty quiet couple of days for Kyrie Irving. We were hearing about him constantly over and over, and he said this and he did this. It's been pretty quiet over the past couple of days. But you know what they say, the night is always darkest before the dawn. So maybe we will see something come out of this very, very soon. Woj just tweeted 2 hours ago, the Lakers have been willing to include both of their first-round picks in a Kyrie Irving deal, but the Nets are not interested. Nets are not interested. That's interesting. What do you think? Are the Nets just putting up a smokescreen here? Do they know that the Lakers are so desperate that they need to get Kyrie Irving that maybe they can squeeze a little bit more out of him?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I don't know what the end game is here for Brooklyn. Like, do they really think that they're going to be in a better situation if they basically just hold Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant hostage until the season starts, and then expect them to all of a sudden go out there and play with Ben Simmons and be one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference? I don't think that's a reasonable expectation anymore. People in Durant's camp are already saying that if they don't trade him, he's going to make life living hell, basically, for everyone in the Nets organization. And that's coming from a guy who I consider to be way more mentally stable and sane than Kyrie Irving. So I don't know what the Nets' end goal is here. I think if you have a deal on the table that gives you, look, they don't have many first-round picks for the next few years, so you've got a deal on the table that gives you an all-star level, maybe not anymore or currently, but a guy that's made many all-star teams in his career, multiple MVPs, and a guy that you can immediately start at point guard alongside Kevin Durant, possibly, who also played with him in the past, plus you're getting first-round picks. I don't know if there's a better situation out there for Brooklyn than this.
I mean, you're getting first-round picks in 4 or 5 years from now, which don't help you right now, but at the same time, maybe you don't want the first-round picks right now too, right? Like, you want those picks after LeBron has kind of ridden off into the sunset. Kyrie Irving does whatever Kyrie Irving does, and then Anthony Davis, if he still can hold himself together, Lakers record is probably not going to be the greatest in 2027 through 2029. So maybe those picks are valuable. I don't know. I do want to share an article from Yahoo News that I thought was pretty funny. Former NBA center advises Kevin Durant, all you have to tweet is free Taiwan or free Hong Kong, and the Nets will trade you right away. This seems to be a dig at the owner of the Brooklyn Nets, Joe Tsai. He is from China, has many businesses in China, and the NBA, as we saw with the Daryl Morey situation, is very, very sensitive regarding any tweets that are, I guess, considered anti-China or anti-Republic of China. Interesting tactic there, Calvin. Do you think this would actually work out for Kyrie and KD, or is this a way to get benched for the next year or 4 years?
Oh, man. I have no idea if that would actually work or not. My gut tells me it wouldn't, but it also would be definitely not in Josiah's interest to just bench these guys for the next 4 years, because then you're still going to have to pay them, and they're not going to help you win basketball games. So, at that point, you don't even have the ability to do what the Sixers are doing and put forth a potential settlement to reclaim some of that money that they were paying him while he was sitting out with mental illness conditions or whatever, saying he couldn't play. So, I just wonder so far through this whole process, whether it's been Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant, I've kind of felt like the Nets are holding these guys hostage a little bit, but trying to do two things at once. They're trying to take back some of the power that the players have now gained over franchises, owners, general managers, things like that. They're trying to make a stand and saying here that this isn't okay. We just signed you to these huge deals. We committed a lot of money to you. In Durant's case, like you've brought up a bunch of times, we paid you while you rehabbed for a year with the idea that you were going to be here for the long run and help us compete to win a title. So I think that they've been trying to regain some of that power, and I also think they've been believing that these two players are so good and that so many teams will want them that eventually one team is going to say, okay, we're going to pay the astronomical price to make the deal for these guys. But as this continues to drag out, I see it less and less likely that any team is going to offer one of those mega deals as we get closer and closer to the start of camp. And it seems to be backfiring on Brooklyn now in a small way, which could grow into a much larger situation of all of a sudden it's opening week, Durant's not there, Kyrie Irving is, who knows, maybe he'll be there, maybe he won't be, and now you have this situation where you're left with absolutely nothing because you didn't get anything in return for these two guys. So they're riding a very, very fine line here.
Yeah, I agree. And it's almost like if you don't trade them here in the next couple weeks, then that ship has sailed, and teams might not be interested in trading for them until the trade deadline. And then do you really want to let this whole circus continue to spiral out of control until December, until January? And then what does that mean for Ben Simmons, right? We've been talking about, does Ben Simmons get traded too? Does he want out? He hasn't played a single game with them after his whole circus that he had in Philadelphia last season. Does this make his situation worse? Does this make his mental issues, or whatever they're calling him at this point, worse, that he has to deal with all this stuff? So it really is a strange issue. KD did tweet something today that apparently went viral, and this is it. Take a look here.
Dude, I'm tired of explaining this to you guys. You got to train your whole body. Kevin Durant and these guys messed their Achilles up. I have a question for guys like Kevin Durant. When's the last time you did a calf raise? At home, I'm dad. But in here, I'm the trainer. So there's no talking, no screwing around. Like if you notice, they haven't said one word to each other. They never talk. Coach was always asking.
Apparently KD says that today he did a calf raise. So I don't know if that's true or not. I'll have to talk to my sources to see if we can verify that. But interesting tweet from KD today. I also saw another viral tweet today of someone running into Ben Simmons in the store and thinking that it was Russell Westbrook and telling him that he was not a good shooter. Quite funny stuff. These trolls are everywhere these days, Calvin.
Well, if you're going to make a mistake, that's a good one to make because neither of them are good shooters.
Alfie Man's got a hot take here. The Nets owner is holding the players hostage. What do you think about that, Cal?
Yeah, I think that's definitely happening here. For the reasons that I just gave. I think that they're fed up with having to meet these insane demands by players and basically being held hostage as an organization by your star players. So they're trying to take a little bit of that back. That's going to be one of the biggest topics in these the labor negotiations when the collective bargaining agreement meetings start to happen again in December. I think the owners are definitely taking a lot of notes here about what's happening in Brooklyn, and they're going to use this as ammunition for getting that next labor agreement done.
Yeah, maybe another reason why LeBron signs this contract extension, right? He sees the writing on the wall that maybe things are going to change a little bit next year. We will definitely see what happens there. The latest article that I read says that the favorite to land Kevin Durant currently is the Boston Celtics. We heard about the Jalen Brown offer a couple weeks ago. The Nets rebuffed and said we want Marcus Smart as well. The Celtics were not willing to give up Marcus Smart at this time. Calvin, are you hearing anything else? We heard briefly the Sixers were interested and involved. We saw a video of KD and James Harden, I guess with Travis Scott in Europe after a concert. But overall thoughts, KD, where is he heading? Who's the favorite at this point?
Well, I think the favorite's always going to be the team that is considered to have the best possible package to give in return. And to me, that's definitely the Boston Celtics. If they really wanted to do this, they'd be the team that could get it done the quickest and the easiest and without any outside help, right? A lot of these other teams that are interested, might need a third team to either facilitate money going around or add draft picks or something like that. Boston has the best single return package they could offer. The question is, do you offer it? I don't think anything in this situation is going to change anytime soon. To me, the Nets are asking for way too much for any team really that wants to get him in a deal. And, if you're the Celtics, I'd be really, really careful if I was them. I think that if you were to make this deal now, I think they would be punting on what they've built way too quickly. And I realize that Tatum and Brown have been in the league for, a little while now. It's not like they just randomly came up out of nowhere last year, but it takes time to learn how to win in the playoffs. These guys are young. They're going to be good for a long time. They really, I think, have something special going for them in Boston. And making a deal like this where they could potentially be losing both Marcus Smart and Jalen Brown, I realize you're getting back Kevin Durant, but that's a lot to lose for a team that built themselves last year on defense and really a complete team to make a run to the finals. The fact that they're young, I would stay away from it if I was Boston. I really would.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on here. It's kind of interrelated, but a new person entering in the conversation here, and that is Tyler Herro. Tyler Herro has not been able to come to terms with the Heat in a contract extension, so he will be a restricted free agent next offseason. And this is a quote from him posted today by NBC Sports. He says that he is preparing for the season whether I'm on the Heat or somewhere else. There's been many talk about whether he will be a starter this year on the Heat, if he's going to continue to come off the bench, whether the Heat are committed towards him. We heard about potential Kevin Durant to Miami rumors, but of course with Ben Simmons on that team, Bam Adebayo cannot be on the same roster as him as well due to the rookie extension rule. Tyler Herro could potentially be involved in a trade package. KD. Calvin, what are your thoughts on Tyler Herro? Any updates on the situation? Do you see him remaining with the Heat? Do you see him re-signing with the Heat? Or is he going to be moved here in a trade package? And also, real quick, I do have to show I am wearing my Miami Heat LeBron shirt. So, lying on the beach. Take it, Calvin.
Man, I feel bad for Tyler Herro. I really do, especially when you see something like the Jalen Brunson situation. Tyler Herro and Jalen Brunson both spent pretty much all of last season coming off the bench. They were the sixth man for their teams. They both had really good years. I think Herro had overall a much better year than Jalen Brunson, but because of the franchises they play for in their current situations, Brunson ends up signing a $100 million contract with the Knicks, and Tyler Herro is still struggling to figure out if he's going to get an extension or even what team he's going to play for next year. It just goes to show how, even in today's NBA, when it seems like everybody gets paid all the time, you still run into some very dicey situations. The Heat are a really hard-capped team. They don't have a lot of money to spend. They're in on the Kevin Durant sweepstakes, so there's a lot of moving parts going on around here, and Tyler Herro is unfortunately going to pay the price, at least in the short term, for that. Because is he somebody that helps their team and that they need? Yes, absolutely. But he also could be the key to getting somebody like Kevin Durant who might help their team even more. So he's kind of just stuck in limbo here at this point. I think you still are going to see Tyler Herro start the season in Miami. Whether or not he finishes the season there, that'll be a different story because, again, if the East is super competitive like it was last year and the Heat find themselves, in the middle of the pack around the trade deadline, that could be the cue for them to say, okay, we've got to get this deal done for somebody like Durant, and that will, mean Tyler Herro gets moved.
Yeah, it really is a weird situation. I expect Tyler Herro to re-sign with the Miami Heat. I think he is a hard worker. I think he is ingrained in the Heat culture. He's got the connection with Jimmy Butler. Yes, Kevin Durant is a much better talent, but we mentioned the complications with Ben Simmons, Bam Adebayo, whether you're really willing to give up all that to get a guy like Kevin Durant. So I anticipate Tyler Herro staying with this franchise, but it would be interesting to see exactly how the contract works out, right? Like maybe Miami tells him, hey, Tyler, go out and get an offer next offseason. We'll match it, but you got to go find us an offer. We just want to make sure that someone else is willing to pay you what we're going to pay you. Interesting business tactic there, but very, 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 very weird situation. And yeah, I feel bad for Tyler Herro. The dude has played exceptionally well. I don't really know what else he can do. Calvin, I heard a pretty good basketball joke today. Are you interested?
I am always interested in a good joke, Barry.
All right. What do basketball players do when they lose their eyesight?
I don't know.
They become referees. They didn't hit that button. Right. But yeah, interesting situation there for Tyler Herro. We will see what comes of it. Next up, let's talk about Donovan Mitchell, not Davion, Donovan Mitchell. And all these rumors that are continuing to swirl around him and where he may end up. I'm hearing now the Hornets might be in the mix here. We know the Knicks are also in the mix. You have any updates on Donovan Mitchell, and what do you think is going to happen here?
This is another tough one to tell, really. I mean, the fact that the trade market has been set so high this offseason thanks to guys like Rudy Gobert, it's putting a lot of strain and a lot of uncertainty on where, to expect these guys to go, just because you're not sure what team is really going to saddle up and make the necessary push. I mean, the Knicks have still, throughout all of this, been the headliners or the front runners to get this deal done, right? And I do want to point out, Key Kings is saying here that Herro to Utah and Mitchell to Miami is a trade that he thinks could happen. That actually can't happen because of that designated rookie extension. Donovan Mitchell and Bam Adebayo both signed that, so they can't play on the same team, just like Ben Simmons and and Bam Adebayo. So that would be maybe a good move for both teams, but it's unlikely. I think if a team is going to, or if anybody's going to make this happen, I still think that the Knicks are going to be the team that gets it done. They're desperate, first of all. They really, really are trying to not just become a relevant team like they used to be, but get over this hump of the fact that it seems like no star player wants to go there, right? They've gotten Jalen Brunson to sign there. I realize he's not the mega star that they're looking for, but if they pull off a trade for Donovan Mitchell, that could definitely help change the narrative.
What do you think a trade would actually look like here? I got the trade machine fired up. One of my favorite machines of all, the ESPN trade machine. Not perfect, but it does some work here. Do you see a guy like Julius Randle being moved? $30 million is what you got to match, right? So that's either Fournier, Derrick Rose, and a ton of draft picks. Maybe you can throw in a guy like Quigley. What's it really going to take for the Knicks to get a guy like Donovan Mitchell?
Well, to be honest, it's not really about what the Knicks want to give, right? It's about what the Jazz are willing to accept in return. Phoenix is here in the chat saying they're going to go full OKC mode. If that's their mindset, then you can get away with a deal that maybe doesn't include Julius Randle. It'll just be a bunch of the young guys. You'll just keep stacking it up until you get that salary there, and then you have to throw in a ton of first-round picks also. Or do they get a third team involved that helps cover some of the salary? But if the Jazz are thinking, okay, we still want to try to get decent players in return, then there's more wrinkles to it. So I definitely think it's going to allow you, or you definitely have to take into consideration what's Utah's end goal here. What's their motivation? Are they going full OKC rebuild where they're just going to try to amass as many picks as you can possibly get? Or are they trying to get still players that are going to help them compete, in the short term and picks?
Shout out to Phoenix here in the chat. 5 first-round picks and all these young guys for Donovan Mitchell. Are you doing that if you're the Knicks? And what do you build around? You have what? You're going to have Mitchell, you're going to have Brunson, you're going to have RJ Barrett, and that's it?
It depends. Again, it depends on which players you are including in this trade. They've got a plethora of young or medium veteran style players. They've got Cam Reddish and RJ Barrett. You pick between one of the two of them. I guess you just re-signed Mitchell Robinson. I really think it comes down to how desperate are the Knicks to get a big time name player in there.
Fanspo. This is cool. I haven't seen this one before. I've seen a couple other different trade machines. This one looks pretty cool. It's interesting. They have trending players being traded, and you got our favorite Buddy Hield in here, right in the center. Buddy Hield, number 8. Rudy Gay is in here. Yeah, looks like Donovan Mitchell is definitely headlining everything right now. It's such a weird situation, man. I can't think of an offseason where you've had so many star players or superstar even players available for trade, right? Like you have Kyrie Irving, you got Kevin Durant, we already had Gobert, potentially Tyler Herro is available. You got Jalen Brunson, not that he's a star or anything, but he was able to move on to another team. Then you have guys like Donovan Mitchell. It's crazy. There is a ton of movement. And then we could have even seen a moment where DeAndre Ayton was moved as well. Former number 1 overall pick 4 years ago. A dude that has not been a bust. A dude that went to the NBA Finals, who's been very, very productive. So it's interesting to see this new wave of NBA player movement, player empowerment. Guys are switching rosters like they're going out of style right now. Crazy. All right. Are you ready to jump here into the schedule?
Let's do it.
All right. So it's official, guys. The NBA released the 2022-2023 NBA regular season schedule today. And a couple highlights here. First off, I do have to say they absolutely killed it on the Tuesday opening night games. You have the Sixers at the Celtics and the Lakers at the Warriors. These are going to be some pretty exciting games here. Calvin, I'm going to throw you here into the fire and make you pick some wins here, because I want to remind everyone we are sponsored by BetUs. If you'd like to bet with us, you can click that link down below in the description. You get 125% signing bonus when you sign up. That's right. That's 125% of your first deposit as a signing bonus. Calvin, when they sign up for BetUs, even though this is not financial advice, who are they taking on opening night to double up here? Are you taking the Celtics? Are you taking the Sixers? And then are you taking the Lakers or the favorite, the Warriors?
Celtics and Warriors. Easy.
That was very, very easy. Is there anything that could happen here that kind of changes that for you? If Kyrie heads to the Lakers, if KD gets traded to the Sixers, do any of these predictions change?
Yes, I think you would have to think twice about those picks, especially the Kevin Durant to Philadelphia one. That would definitely change things for me. And of course, even without either of those trades, the Lakers and the 76ers are capable, obviously, of winning one game. Plus, it's opening night; anything could happen. But it's the ring ceremony for the Warriors. I think if Kyrie Irving is not playing in a Laker uniform there, the Lakers obviously are going to have their work cut out for them on opening night. And I love Joel Embiid, but the Celtics are a much, much more complete team as of right now than the 76ers are, especially when you look at the depth that they've got. So I think the Celtics and the Warriors handle business on the home court both on opening night.
Yeah, so some exciting games on opening night, which is Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, we have a couple more interesting games. We have the Memphis Grizzlies hosting the New York Knicks. Maybe we will get to see Donovan Mitchell in a Knicks jersey. And then we have an awesome rematch. Dallas Mavericks are visiting the Phoenix Suns. We'll see if Phoenix got their mojo back after getting eliminated in a horrendous Game 7 where DeAndre Ayton refuses to go back in the game. Hopefully everything is okay in Phoenix, but that is going to be another exciting game as well. Moving on here, a couple really important season dates here. Obviously, October 18th, as we stated, Tuesday is opening night. February 17th through the 19th is NBA All-Star Weekend, which is in Utah, Salt Lake City. Interesting year for them to be hosting an All-Star game because they could potentially go from 2 to 0 All-Stars. Then you have April 11th through the 14th is the NBA Play-In Tournament. Shout out to my Kings fans out there. And then April 15th is the NBA Playoffs. Also give a shout out to my Kings fans there because the Kings are making the playoffs. And then it is official June 1st, the NBA Finals start, Game 1. Calvin, any additional thoughts here? We have 5 games on Christmas Day. Let's see here. We have the Lakers visiting the Mavericks, the Celtics hosting the Bucks, the Grizzlies visiting the Warriors, and then we have the Nuggets meeting the Suns.
Yes, there's also Knicks and 76ers. I believe that's the first game on Christmas Day. I'm always eager to watch basketball on Christmas Day. There's always great games, and there's a ton of them. I don't think you mentioned another interesting note about the schedule. There will be no games on Election Day this year. Obviously, the NBA over the past couple of seasons has definitely made a big push to try to get more players not just registered to vote, but actually voting as well. And the NBA Players Association has also headlined a big, spear for that sort of a thing. So this is maybe a way to give players an opportunity and get more people out there to vote. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of marquee games. I think it's great. Phoenix, I'm sorry, man. We can't see your trade, but I would love to see it.
Key Kings
wants
to know, what's happening with Colin Sexton? Take it Take it, Calvin.
This might be a bigger riddle than, what's going to happen to Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving. I really have no idea. It surprises me that not a single team in the NBA put out an offer sheet for this guy. He was playing tremendously before he got hurt last year. You and I have had conversations in the past about should the 76ers keep him because we think he's a great player.
You mean the Cavaliers?
Cavaliers. The Cavaliers. Thank you. And the question is, does it work in the backcourt with him and Darius Garland? I really have absolutely no idea what's going to happen with Colin Sexton.
Yeah, I really hope he re-signs with the Cavaliers because, he was the prized guy that they got when they traded Kyrie, right? He was that draft pick that he got from Boston, and he actually turned into a very exciting player. I love the combination. I love the nickname Sexland, Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, and I think that this team can work it out. I think they have a ton of young players. Maybe they're at that point where they're like, okay, we have too many guys and they all need minutes. We need to figure out a way to kind of like leverage these guys to upgrade at certain positions. We all know about the addition to Karis LeVert, who you and I both absolutely love. He is probably going to be the starting shooting guard for them this season. But yeah, it's really quite unfortunate. I really do hope that Colin Sexton will remain with the Cavaliers. But if they're not willing to give him the opportunity, I'm sure someone else will. But it might take, some rebuilding of his value. He did get injured, like you mentioned, and sometimes teams are a little hesitant to be the first one to throw out an offer on an injured player. And it says, like this article says, right, he remains a victim of the market, leverage, timing. Yeah. It kind of also gets into the well, why is nobody else offering this guy something? Am I dumb? Why am I interested if no one else is offering anything? Maybe there's a reason that no one's really offered him it. So it's unfortunate situation, really unfortunate.
Yeah, it still surprises me when the free agent market wasn't, there are certainly a bunch of good players out there or were out there available when you started free agency this year, but it wasn't like the mega list of players that we've seen even in recent years up through the last, 3 or 4. So I am very surprised that not a single team out there even put an offer sheet in for him. Yeah,
that's really, really
Barry,
great.
can you log into the Royal Rebounds Twitter account on your computers so we can put Phoenix's trade up on the screen?
1 second here. Pull it up here.
Yeah, Key Kings, I agree. He has, not only does Colin Sexton have the raw talent to be a great player in the league, but he seems to have the attitude and the mentality around being a great or dominant player as well. I think he's a fantastic player. He's maybe a little undersized for a 2-guard. That's one of the only knocks you can really give towards him right now, but I would definitely take him on my team.
Phoenix, what's your Twitter account? I'll pull it up, but I can't get into Royal Rebound, so I got to go look at your account. Watching his Cavs versus Nets game where he went off. Yeah, and I loved it.
Scotty Barnes is him.
I loved it when he was
the Twitter account.
Scotty Barnes is him.
Oh, sorry. I gave you false information. At Phoenix7863 is what you want to look for.
78 what?
Real quickly, I'll read it out here before we officially can throw it up on the screen. Knicks received Donovan Mitchell. The Jazz receive Evan Fournier, Quentin Grimes, Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickley, Miles McBride, and a total of 6 first-round picks. One of them top 3 protected. Wow, that's a lot.
7862.
6'3".
Oh, 6'3". There we go. We found him. Don't worry, guys. We found him. And yes, I've been on Twitter before. Just hard working with all these little windows here.
Yeah, Barry's got a lot going on over there. He's got 2 monitors going, probably like 6 different things on both screens.
All right, let's pull it up here. Here we go. Success. We got Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks, the Jazz, Evan Fournier, also known as Don't Google, one of my favorite nicknames in the NBA, Quentin Grimes, Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickley, Miles McBride, a 2023 first-round pick via Detroit. What's the pick protection on that? I'm curious. A 2025 first-round pick. Oh, I see a 2023 first-round pick via Washington, a 2023 first-round pick via Dallas, 2025, 2027, 2029, top 3 protected. Wow, I didn't know the Knicks had all these draft picks, Calvin.
I didn't either.
What do you think about this deal for the Jazz?
It's if you're going full rebuild mode, this wouldn't be a bad way to go about it. It's quite a haul to give up for one player. I mean, you're really all in here if you're the Knicks.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, it's like Fournier. I'd rather have Donovan Mitchell over Fournier. Quentin Grimes is an okay player, nowhere near either of those other two. Obi Toppin is a young talent. I know you're a big fan of him. I know you like Emmanuel Quickley a lot, point guard, but his position's probably taken now that they brought in Brunson. And then, a bunch of draft picks. I'm interested to hear what these protections are on this pick from Detroit, this pick from Washington, because both of those teams might not be very good this next season. So I'm curious what exactly you can, subtract from that team and send over to Utah. I mean, if I'm the Knicks and I'm looking at this, I'm saying, okay, if I have Donovan Mitchell, if I have RJ Barrett, if I'm able to keep Randall, and I brought in Jalen Brunson, and I have who's the center over there, Calvin? I'm blanking. Mitchell Robinson. That's a great start. That's probably the best Knicks team that I've seen since they signed Amari Stoudemire and traded for Carmelo Anthony. Maybe not the first season, but after they were able to add in guys like Tyson Chandler and stuff like that. That team, I think it was like 2012, 2013, where they were, towards the top of the East. Great roster. I do have some concerns, mainly size around my 2 guards, because Donovan Mitchell's not the biggest guy. Jalen Brunson's not the biggest guy. We know that Coach Tibbs loves defense, so I don't know how high he is going to be on having 2 tiny guys like that. But then again, you do have an amazing defensive-minded center in Mitchell Robinson. Julius Randle's no slouch himself. So I could see it working out, but this is I feel like the Jazz can get a better deal from another team. I really do. If I'm the Jazz, I like the draft picks. I like some of these young players, but I feel like one of the biggest things you do in a rebuild, and especially what Utah's doing in a full rebuild, is you need guys to build around, not just draft picks, but actual players to rebuild around. I don't know if Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley are my cornerstones that I'm going to build a future core around. Fournier is definitely not that. But what are your thoughts on that, Calvin?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm mixed on this deal. I think that it makes sense for both teams for some reasons. But I just it's so many picks to give up. From Utah's perspective, you're saying you can't or you don't know how those picks would help you rebuild. You are getting a first-round pick next year from Detroit and Washington. Both teams are probably going to be pretty bad. So that seems like 2 guaranteed lottery picks right there. But it's tough. I think that if you're the Knicks, again, they're desperate to change the narrative on this team, right? And that starting 5 is a pretty decent starting 5. But if I were to ask myself, okay, where does that team finish in the Eastern Conference? Are they a top 4 team in the East? I don't know, actually.
Yeah, that's a good point here. I just kind of want to dive into these draft picks here to see what exactly is going on in 2023. With these draft picks, because maybe those are lottery picks, but there's got to be some protections, right? The Mavericks here, top 10 pick. Yeah, these are a lot of lottery protected picks, it looks like. Pistons, top 18. Wizards, top 14. So, yeah, none of these will be lottery picks. So that makes me even less likely to do it if I am Utah. You're not really getting any players to build around, and you're not really getting any high draft picks. So, unfortunately, I'm going to say no if I'm the Utah Jazz. I think I can get a better deal.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that the Knicks are, in between a rock and a hard place here. They're desperate to get this deal done, and it might take something like this. Phoenix is saying they're probably a play-in team with adding Donovan Mitchell to this roster. It's hard to justify trading that many players and that many picks.
Better be a playoff team
for a guy that makes you a play-in tournament team, or ultimately that's the end result, right? Like. It's a very difficult call to make. Yeah, that is that's a wild one. But thank you, Phoenix, for sharing that with us. We appreciate it. And as always, I'm going to throw this up here. If you want to call into the show, give us your thoughts. Let us know why you think this would be a good deal and why it would work out. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a call, 916-562-1130. We'll put you live here on the show. Feel free to call in anytime. All right, Calvin, let's I'm tired of talking about the NBA schedule. Let's talk about the Sacramento Kings regular season schedule. I don't want to take a super deep dive into this because we will be talking about it tomorrow on Royal Rebounds. If you're not subscribed to that channel, you better go subscribe to that right now. But we'll dive into that entire schedule. And also, to just give you guys a little preview here, Calvin and I have committed to going to Game 1 October 19th, pending work approvals. And we are contemplating going to the first 3 games. Trailblazers, Clippers, Warriors. We could spend a fun week in Sacramento, Calvin. Maybe a Tuesday through Monday trip or something like that would be quite fun. Maybe we can do a couple podcasts there. But just looking through the schedule here, Calvin, the first thing you said to me was, this is a very, very tough start to the season. You got the Blazers. I consider that a winnable game. You got the Clippers. Obviously, if they're healthy, that's going to be a very, very tough game. You got the reigning champs, the Warriors. You got the Grizzlies, playoff team. You got the Heat, playoff team. Charlotte, I think, is winnable. The second Heat game is also going to be tough. Then you got a winnable game against Orlando. Another tough game against the Warriors. You got the really big Cleveland Cavaliers, the Lakers, the Warriors again, the Nets, whatever happens with them, until it finally softens here a little bit before Thanksgiving. We're getting our Thanksgiving early in Sacramento this year. They play the Spurs and the Pistons kind of in that little stretch. And then it goes right back to playoff basketball. Grizzlies, Hawks, Celtics, Suns. This is a brutal schedule, Calvin. This is a very, very brutal schedule. Yeah, I mean, there's for a team like the Sacramento Kings, you can argue that there aren't a ton of guaranteed or winnable games anyway, or at least that's how it's been, for the last however many years. But to get a start like that to the season, we're talking about a team that is very high on their expectations for this year. They think that they've really made a lot of strides. They could be the best Sacramento Kings roster that they've had in almost 2 decades, right?
Yep.
And then we could still be talking about like a 2-8 or a 2-9 start. That's really rough. Really, really rough.
The West is hard, man. The West is extremely hard. You notice I stopped on this game here. This is a home game in Sacramento against the Chicago Bulls. Sunday, December 4th. Calvin requested off work. Do it. Do it.
I would, of course, love to go to that game. You know that.
That game would be a ton of fun. Ton of fun. And then just looking through the rest of the schedule here, obviously no surprise here. The Kings are not playing on Christmas Day. Kings fans, hold yourselves back. We're not protesting yet. But no game on Christmas Day for the Sacramento Kings, Calvin, which means that I'm probably going to have a good Christmas because I'm not going to have to worry or stress out about a Kings game. But interestingly enough, they do play on not New Year's Eve, but they play on December 30th at home, and then they travel on New Year's to Memphis. Kind of a weird schedule glitch there for me personally, but going to be a tough season for the Kings. It really is. Will be. Also, shout out to Tanvir. I see you here.
Yes,
what is up, Tanvir? Yeah, Jeremiah, also welcome in. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, it is going to be a pretty rough start there. Pretty rough start to the in Phoenix. Yeah, New York as the 9th seed on paper. I don't know if I'm willing to give all that up, like Calvin said, to be a 9th seed. Maybe it gives you something to build off of. I got a lot of concerns about those 2 small guards. I really do. That's my biggest concern about the entire thing. And then at the same time, you still have to get Utah to say yes as well, right? And if you're Utah, what's forcing you to trade Donovan Mitchell right away? Like is Donovan Mitchell single-handedly going to, worsen your draft pick that much by having him for maybe half of the season? I'm not really sure. But at the same time, he's not Kevin Durant. He's not Kyrie Irving. He's not demanding a trade and yelling at people and all this stuff. So I don't think they're in any rush to trade Donovan Mitchell, and I wouldn't be if I was Utah.
Yeah,
all right.
I still think if Donovan Mitchell gets traded, it's going to be a 3-team deal. Because I'm not sure I see a team like New York, even though they would love to have him, right, putting all of that up by themselves in order to get Donovan Mitchell is a ton to give up. So I think if this deal gets done, there's going to be a 3rd team involved to help lessen the blow that the Knicks, for example, would have to give up.
I just had an interesting thought here, and maybe this is a deal that Mike might like. But what about a deal to bring Donovan Mitchell to Dallas? They just brought in Christian Wood. They could potentially give up some draft picks, maybe a guy like Dwight Powell, and bring Donovan Mitchell to help Luka Doncic. We know Luka Doncic has excellent size at the point guard position, so maybe that can kind of offset the size of a guy like Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, this is not what the deal would take, right? You'd have to give up a ton of draft picks and stuff like that, but I think I'd be more inclined if I'm Dallas to try and make a move like this versus if I'm New York trying to fight for the 9th seed. Any thoughts here?
I disagree with you, actually. From Dallas's perspective, I think a lot has been made, since Dallas made this run or during the run in the playoffs last year of the way that this team was built. It's not necessarily, for a while they were maybe trying to find that second star to give Luka. They had Porzingis in there. It didn't work out. A lot of other names have been thrown around. But I think that they're better off just because of the way Luka plays and how much the ball is in his hands. Putting another backcourt mate in there who requires the ball to be in his hands a lot, even if it's not, as much as Luka, I think that hurts or takes away from how they're trying to build this team. I think they would be much more they would benefit more to have perhaps even a guy like Tim Hardaway in there instead of Donovan Mitchell, somebody who is a reliable scorer still, but is much better, in the catch and shoot role as
healthy.
Opposed to a guy that's yes, of course, if he's healthy. I just used him as the example because he's already on the team. But yeah, I think that the way the Mavericks are going to try to build this team for the long haul is not necessarily a second superstar next to Mitchell, but it's the right type of player around him. And I don't know if Donovan Mitchell is the right type of player.
Yeah, that's a good thought. I do like that. That is a good thought. All right, guys, I think it's time to open it up here to questions. So if you guys got questions, go ahead and drop them here in the chat. Calvin and I have answers, or at least we pretend to have answers. So go ahead and drop those questions. And if you got cowbell questions, drop them in here as well. P. Kings says, do you guys like the idea of a rivalry week that's implemented here into the NBA? So according to NBA.com, classic and budding rivalries between teams and players will take center stage for NBA Rivals Week during the week of January 23rd. A new highlight of the regular season schedule, NBA Rivals Week will feature 11 nationally televised games across 4 networks over 5 days from Tuesday, January 24th through Saturday, January 28th. Rivalries will be the focus of all 9 games across TNT, ESPN, and ABC that week, in addition to 2 games on NBA TV. NBA Rivals Week will showcase a triple header on ABC on January 28th, including the Lakers and the Celtics, 2 teams that share the record for the most NBA championships, currently at 17, and have met in the NBA Finals the most times, 12. Early on in the day, they are going to have Jokic lead the Nuggets against Joel Embiid and the Sixers. Calvin, what are your thoughts on this NBA Rivals Week? And are there many other rivalries other than Lakers-Celtics?
Yeah, well, yes, there are, but rivalries in professional sports are much different than I think what you consider a traditional rivalry. A lot of rivalries in professional sports are only rivalries when the teams are good. It's not necessarily that, the Knicks and the Heat have a rivalry together, but if the Knicks have been bad for 10 years in a row, does that really mean much to people outside of both of those fan bases? And even within those fan bases, like if the two teams aren't, constantly butting up against each other in the playoffs every year, that rivalry notion kind of fades fast, I think, in professional sports. It's not nearly the same as college, where it doesn't matter how good the team is year in and year out, like the Michigan-Ohio State game, for example. One team could be undefeated, the other team could be winless. Both fan bases are still going to take that game incredibly seriously. I don't think that's the same for the NBA necessarily. So I think it's a fun idea. And again, if both teams are competitive teams or even contending teams, it makes the idea much, much better. But if we get to this week and the Lakers, LeBron's out, AD's out, they didn't trade for Kyrie, and they have just lost 15 games in a row or something, am I going to care about that game? No, I have no interest in it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I feel like if you have the Kyrie Irving for Russell Westbrook swap, maybe that will be exciting to have like the Nets and the Lakers play on rivalry week. Maybe you get KD playing against his old team in the Golden State Warriors, stuff like that. But there's not many current rivalries in the NBA. And I view it more as like player rivalry as versus teams. You know, players switch teams so often now that
that's a good point.
They seem to be more of player rivalries. Also,
and like, you know, Memphis and Golden State is an example of a game that I think people would want to see in that week. But is it a rivalry just because they had one difficult 6-game series between the two of each other and a lot of players are talking trash? That's not really what a rivalry is, in my opinion. So I agree with Jeremiah here. It feels forced a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Also, to let everybody know, the Warriors and the Celtics will meet on Saturday, December 10th in San Francisco. That is a nationally televised game. That will be the first time they meet since the finals. Interesting there. Also, the final day of the regular season, all 30 teams will play on the final day of the regular season. That's wild, Calvin. I don't think we've ever had all 30 teams play on the last day of the season. Maybe they do that to try and make things a little bit more interesting as far as play-in seeding. Maybe they do that so that teams aren't like, well, Dallas lost yesterday, so now we can win because it's our last day to kind of squeeze and get in positioning.
Perhaps. I also think there's anticipation that both conferences have a lot of, you know, really good teams, and there's going to be a lot of jockeying for seeding position both in the top 6 and in the play-in seeds as well. So maybe having everybody play on the last day, largely increases the number of very important playoff implication games that you have out there.
Point. Good. Also, want to remind everybody, the NBA Global Games are returning this season. There are 2 global games outside of the U.S. and Canada. Both will be on NBA TV. The first game will be in Mexico City, and that will be, what is it, Calvin? El Heat versus Los Spurs.
Spurs.
Saturday, December 17th in Mexico City. And then we will also have a game in Paris, a matchup between the Chicago Bulls and the Detroit Pistons. Calvin, they could have picked a better matchup for Paris. Come on.
Absolutely.
Come on,
Minnesota and New York.
Come on, man.
Unless Evan Fournier gets traded for Donovan Mitchell, and then it would be Utah and Minnesota. But you know what I'm saying.
All right, Brian's got a good question. Calvin, I know you're going to love this one, so I'll let you take it first. What do you guys think of the Big 3 League?
I've never been a fan of the Big 3 League. It's I don't like watching pickup basketball very much, even if there are some very high level players out there. It's one thing if like I'm at Rucker Park or I'm at one of these venues, maybe I even have a chance to play. Like that would be pretty exciting to me, but I'm never going to turn the TV on just to watch pickup basketball like these stupid Pro-Am games, and I'm sure as hell not going to turn on the TV to watch pickup basketball that's 3-on-3 with a bunch of 40-plus-year-olds. So I personally do not like the Big 3. It does nothing for me. I think it's exciting for these guys who have a chance to extend their careers. It's kind of like the senior tour in golf, but I don't watch that either. So...
Wow, tell them how you really feel, Cal. I actually like the Big 3. I think it's cool. I like the idea. It reminds me of kind of like a Harlem Globetrotter-esque game of basketball. I think I agree with Calvin. It would be a lot more exciting in person. I would love to go to one of these. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I don't really tune in on TV. I watch the first 2, maybe 3 seasons on TV. I liked watching 60-year-old Coutinho Mobley out there, but at the same time, it's like I could just go to the gym here and watch a bunch of old people play if I really wanted to. But it's cool to see who still has it, right? Like they're obviously not the same, but you're like, okay. Obviously, Coutinho Mobley has a basketball hoop at his house and continues to play versus, there are certain people, I'm not going to name any names, but there are certain people that when they finish something, they just quit it cold turkey and they just say, I'm not a professional basketball player anymore. I don't play basketball anymore. It was my job. It was my career. If I'm not going to be the best that I can be and dedicate every day to my life to that sport, I'm not going to do it anymore. So it is cool to see you have a bunch of these older pros that just absolutely love the game so much that they're willing to do this. But you're averaging so many injuries per game. Like if you watch the Big Three every week, half the team's out. And we're talking 3 players is the starting lineup. So, you have 2 of those guys out. You barely recognize the team. But it is interesting to watch. And, Key Kings, Joe Johnson did come back to the NBA after killing it in the Big Three. And we did talk about I'm just going to show this one more time. I think we showed it, was it last week? But this, for me, is the coolest thing about the Big Three. They are officially selling ownership in the teams through NFTs. You can become an owner to one of these Big Three teams. There's 2 different NFTs. There's the gold and the fire. If you own the fire one, and I will scroll down here to the cheapest fire one, it looks like it's 16 Ethereum at the moment, which is about $29,000. Calvin, it looks like it's gone down a few thousand since last time. Yeah. And this is the Ghost.
It's tanking.
This is the Ghost Ballers. This was Mike Bibby's team. But apparently with these fire ownerships, it says that you own fire editions also include exclusive intellectual property and licensing rights to team names, logos, merchandise, additional game day activations. You also get free tickets. So this, for me, is the coolest part about the Big Three right now, by far.
Yeah, I'm much more excited about the return of Slam Ball next summer.
Yes,
than I am about
Slam
the
Ball.
Big Three.
Slam Ball. I forgot about that, Calvin. Tell us about it.
Well, if anybody, it hasn't been around for a long time. I think the last actually televised or played professional slam ball game was back in 2002. But it was created, a lot of people thought, ahead of its time as an alternative or sport that combines basketball and hockey pretty much with trampolines.
We love trampolines here.
Yeah, guys wear full pads. You're allowed to check each other into the boards that go around the edge of the court.
Prison rules.
The key, or actually everything inside the 3-point line, is a bunch of trampolines. And it's 4-on-4. If you get fouled, there's no free throw shots. It's a 1-on-1 with the player that commits the foul and the player that gets fouled off the trampolines at the rim. Dunks are worth 3 points. It is incredibly exciting, to say the least. I think it's much more exciting than the Big Three.
They have a goalie, like a blocker or whatever.
Yes. There's one guy basically that hangs out behind the basket on the baseline and pretty much waits for the offensive team to attack the rim, and his job is literally just to throw his body up into the rim and hope that he can deflect or block the shot. It's crazy, actually. It's really, really crazy. But they are bringing this sport back. I forget the guy's name, the founder. I think it's Mason Gordon.
Talk about injuries.
Something like that. Yeah, seriously. But they are bringing this back summer of 2023. Keep your eye out for it. Slam Ball is coming to a court or whatever near you. I don't even know where they set these things up.
It is Mason Gordon.
Mason Gordon. Thank you.
Good memory, Calvin. I'm still wondering when we're getting one of these, Calvin. U-ball? This sounds like fun.
Yeah, we got to get ourselves one of these. But yeah, so you imagine that off of a trampoline. It's so... You should pull up some highlights of Slam Ball right now, because some of the stuff is just ridiculous to watch.
I would definitely pull it up, but I'm still jazzed on this thing, dude. Too bad they don't ship to Hawaii. If we can ship this to any of you, Fred, I'm talking about you. This looks like so much fun, right? This U-ball.
Yeah.
This
is great for the beach.
This is a new sport. This is like a combination between basketball
Handball and basketball,
like
pretty much.
ultimate frisbee, right? There's like no dribbling. Obviously you're on the beach, but this looks like a lot of fun. I definitely want to get one of these. U-ball. All right, let me pull up some slam ball highlights. I love slam ball, man. It was so fun to watch. So fun.
It's a wild game.
But they had to cancel it because
game.
there was like too many injuries or something. So maybe everybody's Achilles has been repaired by now, or maybe slam ball's got a new insurance provider. Who knows?
Well, the founder talked about it being ahead of its time, basically. Like they introduced this, they thought a little bit too early. There wasn't a huge market out there for these, esports and alternative sports and stuff like that. And now there is a big market for it. So they're going to give it another shot. Like, look at that, man. That's insane.
That's kind of how I feel like when we play against Will sometimes at the rec center. This game looks like so much fun, but yeah, the injuries are crazy, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, how about that putback?
This is the top plays.
And what's also crazy about this game is everybody thinks, oh, the only time people score is when they go for a big time dunk like that. But no, people shoot from the outside in this game too.
Oh, look at that alley-oop to himself. You know the craziest thing about this, Calvin, is that even if there wasn't another guy like that guy that just got posterized, even if there wasn't another guy meeting you at the rim, just having trampolines. It would not be
easy to do this.
Yeah, just having trampolines in a basketball hoop. How many people are getting injured here?
Oh, yeah. Look, you and I know very well. We go to the trampoline park on the other side of the island all the time, and one of the best things they've got there is they have 2 basketball hoops with trampolines in front of them, one a 10-foot and one a 12-foot. And you and I spend hours and hours trying to do the craziest dunks that we can possibly do. And it's hard to do by yourself being the only person on the tramp.
Oh, dude, this is wild. Yeah, I really.
That's a legal play. That's a legal play right there.
I really miss this. This looks like a lot of fun, dude. They could probably put a UFC in here. They're just coming up with all these new sports. Have you seen Ultimate Arm Wrestling? That's the craziest one. Did I show you that?
I have seen that. It is ridiculous.
Where they just chain each other together
all day,
and they start punching.
Ultimate arm wrestling,
punching each other, trying to. Oh man, look at this guy. Up on your face. This is crazy. I feel like this is exactly what you and I used to do in college with the Nerf hoop.
Oh yeah, definitely.
A lot of fun. All right, any last questions here before we wrap up the show? Thank you guys all for joining us. We're having a lot of fun here. And yeah, Brian, Nate Robinson, he was a lot of fun to watch too. I've always enjoyed watching that guy from the dunk contest to trying to dunk on Shaq in practice with the Celtics to all the other exciting things. Nate Robinson is hilarious. Did you see him get knocked out in that boxing match? Wild. Absolutely
yes,
wild.
I did.
But I think it's about time to wrap up the show here. Calvin, any last words for the fans out there?
Thanks for watching. We'll do it all over again next week for another Wednesday night party.
Yes, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like bars, if you like basketball, please smash up that like button, hit that subscribe button. Calvin and I are going to have a ton of content going out this week. NBA top stories. We're going to talk about some more trade rumors, some drama between the Nets and all these other teams. And then, like you said, we will be back every single Wednesday for Wednesday night parties. So make sure you guys join us for that. We might have some tequila next week. I did receive quite a few bottles of tequila this week. So what a better way to get rid of it or to enjoy it than that. Also want to remind you all, we will be on Royal Rebounds tomorrow, Thursday, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We will go over the entire Kings schedule, and we're going to have some fun while we're doing it. So make sure you guys join in for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you guys all in the next one.